Hey folks, hope you're all doing well. I'd like to thank everyone for watching and listening to the video so far. So if you can like, subscribe, share, all that jazz, we very greatly appreciate. So as you can see in the title of this video, what I want to talk about this week is run your hard days hard and your easy days easy. And I think that's a motto I've kind of taken with my own training and with the runners I coach. That's really, really important. So push hard on your hard days and easy on your easy days. I'm going to go into a bit of detail on that. And I think the reason why that's a really, really important motto to listen by or to go by is essentially that to get the best out of yourself, yes, you have to push hard, but also you have to recover from those hard days. And that allows for consistent training. And I think everyone is probably sick of me always going on about saying consistency is key. But you have to find what allows you to be consistent and to be fresh, but also to be able to attack the hard days hard and not overly. I think what a lot of people are doing with their running is probably pushing themselves to the limit all the time. And I think that's a bad, I suppose, trait to get into. And ultimately, that doesn't yield success either, to be totally honest. It's not sustainable. With training, what you're trying to do is, I suppose, get the best out of yourself, reach your targets, but also not just have little short-term targets that you want to reach. A lot of your training should be based on trying to build up consistency over a period of time that yields to long-term improvement and longevity. And I think a lot of us when we're training, we're thinking about the next race. And I think that's the right approach, and we're thinking about I suppose short-term success and getting a PB in the very next race and doing everything possible we can to get to that goal, that target, that PB. And I'm not saying that's wrong, I'm not saying I haven't done that, but what I think is important is that with your training, that should be set in a way that allows you to, get considerable improvement over a long period of time. Now, you will have stages where you plateau and maybe go back a bit, but generally that you see a consistent improvement over a long period of time. Okay, so when I say run your hard days hard and your easy days easy, I suppose I've mentioned this before. The way I break down my own training is maybe 2 hard days a week and the rest of it is easy running. Okay, so the easy running is in there to recover from the hard stuff and to also boost my aerobic ability as well. And I like to do my easy stuff in or around conversational pace, and that feels as though it's an easy pace for me, and I can recover. And I think you can use different metrics and data to make sure you're going easy. So heart rate, different zones. I think even just trying to practice having a conversation, even if you're on your own. I do this all the time. Just kind of, am I fit to talk at this stage? And if I'm not, then it's not really an easy run. So that's the easy run side of things. And you need to have, I know people will have seen the 80-20 rule with regards to running in terms of 80% easy and 20% hard. And I'm not saying it needs to be 20% or 80%, or in around those specific numbers, but I think that is generally a good rule of thumb for people to follow. So when I say let's go on to hard days, so your hard days hard. So yes, you want to push hard on your hard days, but it has to be specific to your goal, and it has to be specific in terms of it allows you to progress week on week. So when I say, say for someone new to running, if they're pushing really hard, from the start, I don't know if that's, going to be feasible, over a long period of time. There has to be an element of progression in there and building up to a certain point where you can handle then the harder stuff maybe. So when I say specific, and when I say trying to make it hard and consistent, what I really mean is that it has to be specific to the goal you're working towards, and also that you can, it's sustainable. So I think what a lot of people, including myself, what we do sometimes is we aim for that really brilliant session. Okay, so that brilliant session, and then in our mind we think, yes, I've nailed it, I'm in brilliant shape. And take it from me, who's I probably in my own mind nailed loads of sessions, and then I'm thinking a race a week later or 2 weeks later, whatever it is, I'm going to smash this. And maybe you do, maybe you don't. That's not always the case though. Smashing a session doesn't mean necessarily that you're in the best possible shape or that you're going to run a brilliant race. What I think a lot of us do, and include myself in this, we sometimes produce our best in training, and I think that's something to be, I suppose, conscious of and cognizant of that, you know, there's no medals, there's no PBs, there's nothing, there's no, you know, places going in training. It's about producing it on race day. Okay, so your training should always be that you're trying to get an adaptation from your training, but you're not absolutely killing yourself completely in that training session, but that you arrive on race day and you're able to, I suppose, kill yourself or produce the best possible race on race day. So what I think is important is, I think a lot of people are trying to, I suppose, put together, and I think I've done this with, you know, on social media and Instagram, I used to do a blog, put up this brilliant session, and you get loads of comments and likes, and you feel good about yourself because you've nailed that session. But like, did I push myself too hard in that session? What was the goal of that session? What was the objective of that session? I guarantee it's not to absolutely, you know, destroy yourself or kill yourself. But we all do it because we want that gratitude, essentially. But again, that's not long term. That's not going to allow for consistency. That's not going to allow you to produce the best on race day. So don't worry about, you know, getting likes and comments, etc. on social media or Strava. That's not what it's about. It's about getting the likes and comments, if you will, on race day. And I think that's important. What if you put together a brilliant session? Okay, can you put that brilliant session next week? And next week, and next week, and next week? And I think that's what you need to think. What allows me to be consistent over a long period of time? And that's what you need to do. You need to, I suppose, finish a week's training session and go, that was tough, but yeah, I can do that again next week. And I think sometimes, yes, you might be able to do it again next week, by the way, but can you do it for 6 months? Like, and I think that's what you're aiming for, is not to absolutely empty yourself after every single training session, but to really do what allows you to be consistent over a long period of time. Another point I wanted to make is, I think we've all heard this a lot, focusing on the process and the journey and not necessarily the outcome. And I think that's, you know, that can be applicable to everything, can be applicable to all sports, to be honest with you. So what does that mean? Well, you know, focus on, I said, talking about consistent weeks, okay? So focus on putting together that, you know, those consistent weeks. So if we take a week's training, you're talking about your easy runs, maybe a hard session, and your long run. So focusing on putting those building blocks together and that consistent week, and not necessarily with the outcome. So the outcome could be to run a sub 3 hour marathon or a 19-minute 5k. So within your training, yes, you want to do, you know, sessions and paces that will hopefully allow you to hit those times, but don't worry about those times. Don't worry about them right now. Worry about putting together those consistent weeks back to back. I think that's what we all look at. We think, what is 19-minute 5k pace? Okay, what do I need to do now in training session? I need to hit that again and again and again. And look, you do need to be hitting paces at certain times, but you need to worry about what allows me, as I said over, and I keep saying over and over again, to be as consistent as possible and allows me for long-term progression. And sometimes we think, I'm entering a 5k in 2 weeks time, and again, I've done all of this, and I suppose with Anthony's videos, this is, I suppose, my experience in both running and coaching and my general opinion as well. But we enter a 5k in 2 weeks and we kill ourselves for those 2 weeks. And again, I've done this to be as fit as possible in 2 weeks time, right? And then you're doing mileage that maybe isn't necessarily sustainable or that you're fit for at that moment in time, or doing fast sessions. You're out and doing, you know, 200s, 400s, you're nailing these sessions. But again, you might get a great race in 2 weeks time, probably not, because you're probably not going to go into it fresh enough. But what will happen is, you know, that again, think about another race that's maybe 4 or 6 weeks down the line. Can you keep going with that 2 weeks? No, I don't think so, to be honest with you, because again, the body can break down very quickly. Again, if there's a spike in load in terms of intensity and volume, you know, too much too soon, that's how we all get injured. And I think it's important to be wary of that. So yeah, that's just a wee bit on, you know, I suppose when to push and when not to push, and think about what can I do to be as consistent as possible over a long period of time, and that's the approach to take. So yeah, thanks for watching and listening, guys. As I said at the start, if you can like, subscribe and share and all that jazz, I'd be very appreciated. So thanks very much, guys.